Hey everybody, Grace here. Welcome to another video. So, as the title suggests, I just recently, with basically a week to spare, qualified for the GOAT Format World Championship. I am completely over the moon. I still cannot believe it. I'm so happy. I'm so overjoyed. This was like a really big, item that I wanted to check off my Yu-Gi-Oh bucket list, and I was really glad to finally do it. It really brings me a lot of joy, and it's just wild. Like the times that I've succeeded most in this game are when I have literally zero expectations. So backing up just a little bit before I get into the tournament and talk about the deck and all that stuff, I want to talk a little bit about like why I'm back in Yu-Gi-Oh, why I played this tournament at all, and a little of that stuff. So if you don't care about any of that, just skip forward. But I don't really give a shit about like audience retention on my videos. I know that most of the people that watch my stuff are people that I would call my friends from this online community, and this channel has never been about like trying to be big or anything. It's always just been about trying to like engage with the community. So that's why I want to talk a little bit about some of this stuff. So the reason that I made this big dramatic retirement video, I'm saying that I'm quitting the game basically to work on other things, and I definitely have been. But I always told myself that I would play in person if the opportunity kind of arose. And I was happening to be traveling for work, and there was going to be a GOAT Grand Prix right next to where I was, not right next to where, but pretty close to where I was. And so I was like, just shoot, why not? I had a bunch of friends from this community, from Birdcage, my team, that were going to be there. And so I was thinking this would be a really cool, opportunity to get to, meet up with some of them. And I'm totally down to, play online. And of course, that's when, I got sucked into the Yu-Gi-Oh black hole, because it was like, well, I got to test, I got to test for this tournament. I got to practice and prep. And then I was looking at the calendar and I'm like, well, there's basically two opportunities left outside of this, GGP for me to qualify for the World Championship. And so it's like, well, you know what, let's just play until Worlds and kind of see, where things go. So I ended up not even getting to play at the GOAT Grand Prix. Something came up. I had to fly home early, blah, blah, blah. Then I decided, all right, so my two chances are the FLC, which I played in. I played a ridiculous deck. This might be another video. I played light aggro and I bubbled. I basically lost my last round. It was either get in. If I won, I would have probably been in the top cut, and if not, I was out. And I ended up losing the last round to one of my buddies, Gucci. Played really well, so props to him. And I would have been so sick to get this deck into the top cut of a major, but whatever. So that was my chance, and my other last chance was where are we here? Was with this GOAT Grinders tournament. So this is the list that I ended up going with for the GOAT Grinder Invitational Tournament. I think it was like 30 or 40, maybe even less players. I don't remember exactly, but I ended up going 7-1. I lost round 3 to Reasoning Gate and pretty much won out from there. It was an interesting tournament because it felt like a lot of the matches were kind of anticlimactic, to be honest. I definitely feel like I earned it, but also I did a ton of sacking. So, it is what it is. There was a lot of aggro mirrors. Like I said, I really expected more Chaos Turbo, but I played it against a ton of Warriors, a ton of like Chaos Return, stuff like that. And, some of those matches can be, skill intensive, but also times they can be incredibly sacky, especially when you get down into like a simplified game state. And it's just like, who's going to, draw the monster. And I just, happened to, get the upper hand at the right time. So a lot of these matches could have gone, either way. So there's not a ton of like really high level replays to break down here. We'll watch two replays that I thought were at least somewhat interesting. Some of the games were, but not, there's no really like amazing matches from this tournament to look back on after I, watched all the replays. So like I said, I ended up going with, pretty standard Warrior for this event, just, get back to the aggro train. I feel like I've been playing pretty well with, decks like this. Like I said, I bubbled the FLC with the, light aggro, which is basically like Warrior light. It's Warriors essentially, but a little bit different, not as good, but still a viable deck. And so I felt, pretty good. It's interesting coming back from a break. I really do think it gives you a fresh perspective on the game, and I really do think it can be, insanely helpful for people, because you break a lot of your habits, a lot of the kind of grooves that you've gotten yourself into with how you approach gameplay. It allows you to kind of see things from different perspectives that maybe you didn't in the past, and it's done me a lot of good. I've been on a pretty nice, streak of wins lately somehow. So the deck itself, let's go through the list. Nothing crazy. I'm not going to talk a ton about a lot of things here, but double Blade Knight, I mean, you can go 3, you can go 2. It kind of depends on what, ratios you're doing. I went with 1 Faith in the main, and I'm also running double Jar, so I decided not to go with 3 Blade Knights. I ended up running 2 Ninja Grandmaster Sasuke's. This is another just kind of like personal preference. Just to really like have some more insurance against Gravekeeper Spy and Spirit Reaper and stuff like that. And, it's not a bad card to just start getting aggressive with early to kind of force out battle traps before you drop your Kaikus or your Donzalugs or BLS. So, I think that's just a personal preference thing, but I think it's, 1 or 2 is perfectly fine. The rest of this is pretty standard. I ended up going with a Smashing Ground. This is kind of like the one warrior flex spot where you could go like Book of Moon, depending on what you think the meta is going to be. Smashing Ground ended up being a pretty good call because of all the aggro that I played against. So yeah, I was happy with that. Ended up going with the Jars. I don't know if a lot of warrior players have been playing Jar lately. I've been kind of like out on the current trends and the warrior meta or whatever, but I really like it. Ended up going with just 1 Dust Tornado, namely because there's so many chainables games 1 that I don't know. I don't necessarily always feel like I need a ton of spell and trap removal game 1, like I said with all the chainables. So I think 1 Dust Tornado is perfectly fine. You could play none, you could play 2, you could even play 3, depending on what you want to do. I don't, think it makes a giant bit of difference. Then, the rest of this is pretty, standard. Okay, let's get into the side because that is where it gets a little weird, I guess. Not nothing crazy, but I'll go over the kind of the more standard stuff first. So 1 Book of Moon for, control, whatever, several different matchups that can be good against. Spirit Reaper, mainly for aggro, Shira Priest for control or anything that's running tokens. 1 Zing just to kind of mix up the spell and trap removal a little bit, as well as another Dust Tornado. 1 Widespread Ruin, 1 Sakuretsu Armor, just, basically 5th battle traps, the 4th and 5th battle trap for the aggro matchup. 1 Mobius, this is mainly for like burn and stuff like that, but you can also bring it in against like Turbo that's siding into a lot of battle traps, but not siding into Solemn Judgment. That's at least what I think. 1 Cliff, I wanted to test this out. This card used to be pretty popular and it kind of fell out of favor. And I don't know, I think it's pretty good against like Decree type decks and against Burn. Then we'll kind of skip over some of these. I'll come back to them. Like I said, the extra Dust Tornado and then 1 Magic Cylinder. I like this in almost every like aggro deck at this point. I don't know, I just think it's a cool... sometimes you just play cards because you just want to play them because they just sound like fun. Magic Cylindering someone for game, feels really nice. But basically, I would board this in against the aggro mirror, but also against Chaos Turbo that is siding into Solemns, which sometimes, Chaos Turbo players will do that. They'll side into Solemns, and they can get low pretty quickly, and then they're swinging in with this, 2100 Zombira. It can hit pretty hard. You can steal games from it. So that's the idea behind that. And then with these, monsters that I wanted to side, I wanted to try some more flips out. And this is nothing like revolutionary here, but of course the idea being when you're playing standard warriors, games 2 and 3, your opponents are going to most of the time side out their knocks, their mind controls, stuff like that. And so your flips become infinitely easier to resolve. And so that's just what I wanted to kind of test out. I wanted to, sometimes people will, side in just 1 copy of Faith, or sometimes people will side in 2 Spies. But I really wanted to try out some of these other flips. I wanted to try a 2nd copy of Spy, or 2nd copy of Faith. And then these were kind of flex spots, the Merchant and the Dekoichi. I just wanted to test like them out to see which one I liked more. I also considered Mask of Darkness as another, potential flip that would be cool to side into. But really like upping the flip count games 2 and 3. The main the main matchup I was going to do this in was the Chaos Turbo matchup, but I literally played against just 1 Turbo player. I did do this strategy against like the Chaos Return decks I played against, but against the pure aggro mirror, I didn't want to side this way because they still have Blade Knights and stuff. So yeah, and then I'm thinking if I'm siding into all of these flips, then maybe Tsukiyomi wouldn't be bad because there's potential ways I could like Suk loop my opponent. And also, this is just some, kind of random theory stuff, but I feel like Tsukiyomi is not bad games 2 and 3 into a lot of matchups because, your knocks are still good, like games 2 and 3 against Chaos Turbo, but they definitely can become worse because sometimes they're boarding out their Dekoichis and some of their dark flips in favor of the Zombiras. And so if you have a dead knock in hand, Sook kind of helps you make it live, and it gets rid of one of their key darks. Now, it does reset their Zombira, so if you don't have a knock and you're trying to purely just attack over the Zombira, like you could reset it accidentally, that would suck. But I think that's, it's not a bad idea. I like Sook games 2 and 3. And a lot of matchups to help make your knocks live, especially even against the aggro mirror. This actually almost cost me a couple times, so I'm not going to act like this is a great idea, but potentially keeping in like one knock against the aggro mirror, knowing that at least if they're not siding into a lot of flips, you can have the Tsukiyomi to help make it live. And then because I was kind of upping the monster count games 2 and 3. I would potentially, bring in this Chaos Sorcerer as well with these flips because, my light and dark ratios are getting bumped up. It's nothing, like I said, nothing revolutionary, but that was the idea behind it. There were a few games where, like, I don't really remember Merchant doing a ton. I don't think I ever resolved Dekoichi, so it really wasn't great testing. Faith went absolutely crazy, though. Like, it completely just won me a few of the matches because it's, Magician of Faith, and when your opponent doesn't have Nobleman's in, it can just absolutely go crazy. So that's the deck list. All right, let's get into some replays from the tournament. So this match I'm playing against GMYFS, very solid duelist, who I believe is on Chaos Return. So we win the rock, paper, scissors. There could be a reason, like an argument made here to not summon anything. I think some people would like set Donzalug, but I've said this before. I really don't like setting things game one. There's no reason to make your opponent's Nobleman's live ever. So I decided to go summon Sasuke, set Saku. At least that's what I think I should do. No point in like playing into Heavy Storm or anything by setting the Call of the Haunted. They go Graceful, discard Nobleman, makes sense, and a Kaiku. Then they go DD Warrior Lady, and then snatch my Sasuke. This is a very aggressive play that definitely can get punished, but I do not have, the punish here, so they're allowed to, really get aggressive on me very quickly. But I do have answers. I do decide to go ahead and Sakuretsu the DD Warrior Lady. This is something that I might not have done in the past. I think there is some, old grace and new grace in terms of after this break. I felt like I've seen some different things in the way that I approach these, these aggro games. So I go ahead and get my 1,000. I pretty much assume they have a solemn set based off of the way this all, kind of shook down. And I could get a little more passive and just set everything. I could even now potentially maybe set the DD Warrior Lady or something, knowing that one of the Noblemans is gone and I have like the Mirror Force to protect. But, you kind of put yourself in some awkward situations. If I were to like set this and not do anything and then set all 3 of these and then they summon, a Mystic Swordsman level 2 or basically, any other monster, I'm kind of forced to Mirror Force it. But then if they solemn it back, I'm kind of in a weird spot. So I decide to go ahead and just like, let's just get this out of here. Let's trade into all of this. Next turn, if they're playing aggro, there's a good chance they just summon a monster and attack. I can Mirror Force it, and then I can try to get in with a Donzalug attack. And there's a chance that this like baits out a Battle Trap anyway, which would be nice. So I like go ahead and just take in the simple trade here. I'll take my neg 1 and move on with my life. I think that's the biggest thing that I felt like, I don't know, since returning from my break has, kind of stuck out with me is I was watching a lot of Jonathan LeBounty's replays, he's so good at Warriors. And I was watching, a lot of his stuff and some other high level like Warrior replays. And I just noticed that sometimes they are willing to just take the neg 1 and like live to fight another day, where I would always just fight that. Like I would always fight the idea of going neg 1 for no reason. I would leave this snatch sitting around for like 8 turns just until I can find like some sort of spell trap removal to deal with it. And I think that sometimes, the better thing is to just take the L, take the, card advantage loss and try to make it up in other areas. So they set 1. I have Call, Jar, and Mirror Force set. Nothing in grave. I decided to go ahead and use the Jar. Draw into Duo, which is very nice. I know he's on Chaos Return, so what could be set here? It could be a DD. Well, his DD Warrior Lady's gone. So it's probably a Spy. It's probably a Deco. That's at least what I'm thinking initially. So I go ahead and just decide to use the Duo. Just like rip it, because there's a chance, like I said, he probably has a Solemn set, one of these 2 cards. And so, there's a world where next turn he maybe sets 1 or 2 Spell and Trap, and I never get the value out of this. So whether or not he Solemns that, I don't really care. I just get to use it. And, I trade 1,000 for his 4,000. Seems like a good trade. Knowing that he potentially has Deco or Spy set and one of his Nox gone, that's when I do decide to set the Donzalug and pass. I think this all kind of, it's pretty straightforward here. He goes Exiled, pops Madani, which that's fine. Flip Spy, summons a Kaiku. So there's not a couple options. I think I just Mirror Force this here. I think that makes the most sense. And then pass. Drawn to BLS, which is really nice. I only have Dark, but there's plenty of Rhoda. There's plenty of light monsters I can still draw into at this point. So I decided to just pass. I don't think he's gonna get super aggressive. I don't want to summon this Kaiku and then get it run over by a Blade Knight anyway. But I could see maybe an argument to just doing this. Draw into Rhoda, which is perfect. It's exactly what I needed, because now I can get Sasuke. Whether or not this attack goes through, I get to, force out a Battle Trap and get the light into grave, so I don't hate no matter what happens. I consider a Call the Haunted Donzalug. Maybe that was a good move, but at the same time, you have to kind of be careful with Donzalug in these more simplified game states, because, sometimes what they'll be holding is just a dead card that they want to discard off of Graceful, even though he's already used Graceful. So I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's horrible to go ahead and go Dawn there, but against aggro, there's the potential that he just summons another monster and attacks back over it. He gets the plus right back, where this call could have some really insane value if I'm able to, bring back a Kaiku or even bring back a BLS at some point in time. So I decided to hold the call on the Dawn, though that could be an option I could have taken. They set 1. I still don't know if their Mirror Force, Torrential are both options that could be around. I don't know if Chaos Return plays Torrential, or at least his version of it does. So I decided to go ahead and get aggressive here, because even if he does Torrential, this wouldn't be a horrible spot to be in, because I could then maybe call the Kaiku or something. And even if I get Mirror Force, it's not the end of the world either. So I decided to attack with the Sasuke. Ends up being the Dekoichi, because the likelihood that it's the 3rd Spy are pretty low. So both of these attacks go through, which definitely leads me to believe that I'm in a pretty good spot here. Again, I decided to hold the call. I could continue the aggression, could try to rip a card, but I'm being a bit conservative with this call. I think that's my decision that I have made. They go Tribe. Clear the Kaiku, clear the Sasuke, and then I end up then going ahead and using the call. No cards left in hand for him, so I can just get plus right back over with the Kaiku next turn. Though, maybe there was another avenue I could have gone there. I'm not 100% sure. I think the fact that he had to clear both of those monsters leads me to believe that he doesn't have a Battle Trap set. But I do worry about a Solemn still potentially. So yeah, again, I just played a little slow. This, could be a mistake. I could potentially just go BLS here and, get after it. But I think I'm in a good spot that I don't necessarily need to. He goes Blade Knight. I'll go ahead and just use the Sakuretsu armor. Because if he were to Solemn my BLS there, I could potentially be in trouble. So now I'll just go Mystic Swordsman level 2. Try to go for game. Again, I could, BLS if I wanted to. I think at this point I should probably know that the coast is clear, as they say. But I wait another turn. there's not a ton he could draw that would, you know, swing the game back in his favor. So game 1 down. I did side into those flips, so we see the faith here. This is a bit of a interesting opening hand. I sided out the Donzalug, I believe, which I don't always do, but sometimes. And because I think if I didn't, you could consider, I think Donzalug, you know, just going heavy, knock, Donzalug, whatever, you know, freaking order you wanted to is not, you know, horrible play, especially because I have the Sakuretsu armor to then back it up, and I have the tribe to clear if he were to like set a faith next turn or set a spy next turn. So I think that would be the ideal move, but I decided to go with Mystic Swordsman level 2. This is a little strange. I'm not getting, I could just use the knock and attack with something. Like, I don't hate maybe even going like DD Warrior Lady and then, you know, just to trade 1-for-1 with any future stuff. But I decided I'm just going to hold the knock for later, especially because this heavy guarantees my Mystic Swordsman attack goes through. I have the Sakuretsu to protect the Mystic Swordsman level 2. So I don't hate this either, and then I can save the knock for later. And if for whatever reason it's dead, I can discard it off the tribe. And if I need it again, I can potentially grab Faith. But then he goes Mirage Dragon, which I sided this card in my like light aggro deck. This card kind of goes nuts games 2 and 3 when a lot of like battle traps are being boarded in. So, you know, I don't hate it. And it actually, yeah, gets over the Mystic Swordsman level 2 here. I decide I'm not playing around with this thing. I have the Sakuretsu to protect the tribe, so let's just start getting after it. Goes Graceful. Discards 2 monsters. Then, yeah, I think this is a pretty clear use of the Sakuretsu here. Then main phase 2, he's forced to use Smashing Ground, which is a pretty good sign. Go ahead and MST just in case it's a Solemn, just to guarantee the Pot of Greed goes through. I don't like that I drew into 2 monsters, but it is what it is. I haven't seen any Blade Knights, so that is a bit of a problem because basically anything I do gets, you know, blown up by Blade Knight, but I decided to go ahead and say screw it. Let's, you know, try to just blow the game out right here by setting the Faith and getting Pot of Greed back, but he does have a Blade Knight, so this is a little unfortunate. Just, you know, the classic Solemn Judgment top deck when you don't need it anymore, but that's how it be. I decided to set it. I think this might be like when I was talking about earlier, like I just, you know, should take the L and move on. I think there might even be an argument to, instead of setting this, just summoning Breaker here, getting, you know, the pop on the back row, and then just letting him attack over the Breaker. I don't take too much damage, and I get to destroy one of his spells and traps. So I think that would probably be the move to make. Because then he uses Heavy Storm, my Solemn's gone, and he sets another one. This is just not a good spot to be in. Drawn to Duo, which isn't doing a lot either. I decide to set it. I think I should go ahead and just use this Breaker. I think I should have done this like 2 turns ago. Drawn to Knock, which is doing nothing. He Solemns it. Leads me to believe this is probably like a battle trap. Set back here. Take the 2000. I kept in, I think, 1 knock. I don't know if I sided them both. And no, I did keep them both in. So it ends up costing me here, having this in hand for sure. And then I end up having to just set the Sasuke or I die. So they go Breaker. I'm forced to Solemn it because he'll more than likely pop the new one. Drawn to Sakuretsu armor. And he goes Mobius, which is going to hit my Saku, and I don't want to give the info, so I scoop. I think the knocks cost me there. I think, you know, not using that Breaker earlier was a big misplay, whether or not it changed the course of the game. So this is an interesting hand. I feel pretty good about this hand. Go ahead and set the DD Warrior Lady, set the Zing. Yeah, this doesn't feel, you know, horrible. I don't know if this is necessarily the card to set. I think I could always just summon this. But I think that invites a Breaker. If he has a Breaker, he would just Breaker. You know, Breaker is always really good against DD Warrior Lady, especially if you have like some sort of battle trap set with it, some sort of non-chainable. You just get that instant plus. So I think that's why I decided to set this, but I don't know. I could see an argument against it. I really don't want to do anything with any of these other monsters, but I need to start establishing a, you know, a board presence, so I think it's fine. He goes Exile Force, sets 1. Now, I definitely think about this for a bit because there's a few options. I don't want to use the Rhoda yet. I have enough monsters in hand. Like, I should get some use out of the monsters that I have, especially drawing into Spirit Reaper. So it's basically between Breaker and Spirit Reaper. If I use Breaker, the Zing becomes worse. Because then, I won't have 2 cards to pop, and he didn't set 1 last turn. So I could also go Spirit Reaper and just attack, but that would probably bait out whatever trap he does have, if it is, a trap that could stop the Spirit Reaper. So I actually end up setting the Spirit Reaper because I'm hoping that maybe, like, the fact that he had to use Exiled on the DD Warrior Lady means that he probably doesn't have a way to clear this Reaper. And if I can get him to, set another spell and trap, and then I can use Zing, I can exile anything that he has on board, or Tsukiyomi it, and then I'm allowed to get in with the Spirit Reaper for the nice plus. So I'm just waiting to kind of hope and pray that he sets something else, use a Smashing Ground, and he still hasn't yet. So regardless, I have a very nice hand. I just need to not draw into too many more monsters. I go Smashing Ground. And then Rhoda, I guess I bring the Dawn in now. I think this is all fine because I've exiled to deal with anything if he attacks back over to the Donzalug with. Here's a little ordering thing. People talk about you always want to, like, summon first and then use Smashing Ground, or summon first, then use Knock in order to play around Torrential. But in an instance like this, you want to use Smashing first, because if I were to summon Donzalug and then I were to use Smashing Ground, and if he were to solemn my Smashing Ground, I'm completely screwed. The Kaiku would then attack back over the Donzalug, and I would just lose that for virtually no reason. So you got to think about what cards they could have, and the ordering things do make a slight difference. So yeah, then of course I go for the Donzalug, and it goes through. So I really don't know what his set could be. I think like Return, I guess, makes the most sense. I don't know if that's just hindsight now after watching the replay, but it hasn't done anything, and I feel like he probably would have popped whatever I have back here at some point if I did. I kind of do like a fake thing for half a second, just trying to hopefully incite him to set something, but he probably would have if he had it. So I have a few options I could go. Like I said, the Breaker just makes the Zing worse. I really want this Zing to resolve before I'm summoning the Breaker. But regardless, then he uses that. So now my Zing, kind of is just not doing anything anyway. But that's the kind of risk of the card. And luckily I drew into Duo, which is just kind of busted in this, situation. So take the 18. He sets 1. Draw into Blade Knight. So now I am kind of, I could go Breaker and attack and, take that risk and then pop, whatever he set main phase 2. But if for whatever reason he does have a battle trap there, I can take a lot of damage next turn. And, if for whatever reason he were to draw into like, a Solemn or something, and he has like a Call of the Haunted set, like I could just lose. So I decided to go ahead and just use the Exile to clear the board so I don't take more damage next turn. And there we go. Finally, I am able to, stop drawing monsters so that I can get this whole thing going. He's forced to use Torrential, so I feel pretty good about the situation now. Break just to make sure that it's not a Pot of Greed, or not a Solemn for my pot. And then at this point, it's kind of cooked because I drew Solemn. So obviously drawing really, really well helps a ton, but that's how it goes. He goes Breaker of his own. Go ahead and just Solemn it. Because next turn I'll draw something that I can use to ditch to out the DD Assailant regardless, and if he's forced to attack, I have the Battle Trap, so regardless. And that does it. All right, interesting, mirror match. Not really mirror match. He's on, Chaos Return. That deck typically does better against the Chaos Turbo deck than it does against your kind of more standard warriors. So the matchup kind of went, as expected. But at the same time, I was able to kind of dodge spies a lot, which was really helpful. If he were to resolve a spy, it can always be a very different game. All right, then this is my top 4 match versus Gangster Bro. I think very highly of Gangster Bro. I think he's an incredibly skilled duelist, plays a lot of Chaos Turbo, very, very good in the mirror match, very good into almost any matchup. He has a laundry list of successes, and is also just a very cool person. So always like getting the chance to play against him. I think quite highly of his game. All right. So let's see here. There could be an argument to just set Dust Shoot pass, just see what he has first before I make any moves. But because I have so many monsters, I really want to start getting things on the board. And plus, Trap Dust Shoot can eliminate any problem cards. Like if I see a Tsukiyomi, there's a good chance I will send it back. But that really depends on what I see in his hand anyway. So, so I go ahead and just summon the Blade Knight. Then I use Dust Shoot. And I see this, which, this feels pretty good as the aggro player because I have the Mystic Swordsman level 2 to basically deal with anything. And we see as a dead knock, we see no chaos monsters. So this feels like a pretty good spot to be in. Now, like I said, if I see the Tsukiyomi, I potentially send it back. But I end up sending back the Thunder Dragon just because I want to keep him off of chaos as long as possible. Even if he does go Tsukiyomi here, summon Tsukiyomi, attack the Blade Knight. Regardless, I'm going to go Donzelu next turn and rip a card from his hand regardless. Now, Dawn's not getting a ton of value, because there's a chance I hit Spy, and then if I were to rip again, if I were to hit, Night Assailant, he could potentially just get the, Spy back. So, I don't know. I think that the Thunder Dragon makes sense here. All right. So this is kind of sometimes how it happens game 1 against Chaos Turbo. It's not, anything crazy. This is what Warriors is designed to do game 1 against the deck. So go ahead and do this. Hit the Tsukiyomi, which, I'm cool with that. Draws into Thunder Dragon regardless, which, I don't hate because I still know his hand pretty much, know that there's not a ton going on. I have to think about this because I want to hold the duo until I make sure that the Night Assailant is gone. Because if I were to duo, hit Spy, then he would just ditch the Night Assailant, get the Spy back. I don't want that to happen. So I decided to go ahead and use Mystic Swordsman level 2 first. I kind of expected it to be a Spy, and then I was going to be in a weird spot where I was hoping to dodge the Night Assailant, but he ended up setting the Night Assailant. So now I can go ahead and, just start ripping away. I consider maybe holding the duo because I know his hand. I know his hand at this point. So I see double Thunder Dragon, Spy, Knock. But so I consider holding it. But I feel like if he were to draw into any good cards, like any Chaos Monsters, any power spells, he's just going to use them anyway. So I think going in and use the duo, even though I'm not hitting a ton, is perfectly fine. Makes his card destruction top deck potentially worse. So he thinks for a bit, drew into the Chaos Sorcerer. We have the Smashing Ground Force, and not a big deal. Draw into Rhoda. I know the set is Knock. Just because he doesn't want to get a card ripped, he decides to set it. I'm trying to think if there's any other lines here than the one that I take. Anything that would be better. But no, I'll go ahead and just save the Rhoda because I can grab an exiled, later if needed from it. And plus I can even recycle it with Faith. So I had to go ahead and just get rid of one of the Spies and clear the Sorcerer. So he'll be left with a Dead Knock and a Spy that I can get through next turn with either the Rhoda or the Sasuke if he doesn't answer the Sasuke. He sets one. There's a chance that this could be like Mirror Force. And if it is, it's really not, the end of the world. I don't want to give him a ton of time to get back into the game, but I think go ahead and just, go for it all here. And then main phase 2, I decide to summon the Kaiku. I guess it's because I know he has Light and Dark in Grave already. And I know that he more than likely doesn't play Torrential. So, and then basically next turn, I have game on board. And, I'm kind of basically saying, all right, we'll, see about this Mirror Force later. Though he probably would have used it last turn if he had it. So that makes sense. Summons Tribe. Draw into Graceful. Awesome draw. I ditch the Torrential and the Faith because I know that he has a Knock set. That's also the reason I never really set the Faith, because I knew there was a knock there. Save the Exiled for later, just in case he, for whatever reason, does have a Mirror Force. I'm just going to go ahead and go for game, and if for whatever reason he has an out, I'll at least have the Exiled Force for, if he does something crazy next turn. So, but it's knock, and what did he draw? Regeki Break. So that is going to do it for game one. That's kind of, how it goes. Game one. Now, I was expecting him to be on pretty standard turbo siding into Warrior, which is Sakuretsu Armors, which is Zombiras, but you'll see that ends up not being the case. So he T-sets. I mean, I don't want to overthink this. I think just go ahead and heavy, if there's a world where he like held Dust Shoot there, that's, nuts, and you got me. So I'm perfectly fine just, going 1-for-1 with the Sakuretsu armor, just so that I can get this nice plus with the Mystic Swordsman level 2 into the Spy. Decide not to set the Solemn. This is one of those things. It's like, I don't know. I'd be curious to hear what a more skilled Warrior player would do in this situation. It's, it's just awkward, because if for whatever reason my opponent were to heavy, it would put me in such a weird spot, because it's like, do I pay half my life points to protect this one Dust Tornado? So, or if he were to go Breaker, I also put myself in a weird spot where I end up going, Mega minus. I probably wouldn't use the Solemn, and so it puts me in some awkward spots. I mean, he goes plus if he has Breaker anyway. So I don't know. I decided to hold the Solemn. The only downside of this is for like if he were to make some big Trinity push, I won't have the Solemn to negate any of that. But so I don't know. I'd be curious to hear what other people would do in this spot. He goes Graceful. So once again, like if I had the Solemn set, I think I probably would use it here, just because knowing that he has double Thunder Dragon, he's going to find a lot of really power cards here, more than likely. So he goes 2-0. So I think in hindsight, it's easy to say like I should probably set this, but I don't know. I'm not sure. Here I decide I think about this for a bit. I think in simplified game states, when I'm down in cards, I don't really want the Solemn, especially early in the game, but I'm not sure. So I ended up ditching the Solemn. He goes Kaiku, attacks. I go ahead and just decide to Dust Tornado one of them. I don't know if that's right or not. Draw into a knock, which isn't doing anything. I decided to wait a turn on doing anything, because there's a chance that he could see that, the board's clear and he could summon a Chaos Monster, which there's a good chance he has one at this point, or at least, at some point. Or if he were to set a Spy, I don't know, I'd have the knock to go with it, but then the Tribe, I'm just mainly thinking like, hey, maybe he summons another, spellcaster. So that's why I kind of wait on this at least one turn. And he did. So where I guess he drew into it. Now that's, easy to say in hindsight that I, made that play. I'm not trying to act like, Nostradamus here, but I thought there was a slight chance I might get some nice value off this Tribe. And I do, thankfully. So to decide what to discard, this is kind of tricky, because I could recycle my Tribe, with the Premature Burial. But I don't know, with so much, power cards engrave, him having the Graceful engrave, if he were to draw into like a Faith or a Deco or something, I think I'd want to have the knock for it, because, the only way I really steal this game is through life point damage. So I don't know. I end up ditching the Prima. And then I see Scapegoat token, so I was definitely not expecting this at all. And then I have to decide whether I want to ditch the knock to get rid of the tokens. I think I just kind of have to, because if he were to have like a meta or a creature swap, I'm toast. So yeah, what do I do here? I'm trying to decide whether like I should attack or just set the ring and pass. But I think when I'm this low and this far behind, I think I just need to just start attacking everything. Because if I were to like leave monsters on board, there's a chance he could just swarm the field and I could just lose. Especially like Ring is providing no defense with me being so low anyway. So I decided to just attack, And it's because I see that it's a Spy, I'm like, all right, well, I need to Ring now. Or I need to ditch the Ring now to deal with the spies, or do I wait? I don't know. I don't know what this is all about. I think I should just use Tribe's Effect here, but I'm not 100% sure why I set the ring. He goes on Byra. So it kind of works out because I, get him down really low. He still has ring himself, which I die to. But then next turn, virtually anything I draw that I don't want, I can then ditch it and try to get in with this Tribe attack. And then I run into tokens again, which really not horrible because I have the Tribe on board as long as he doesn't have a way to get over it. So, I think there's maybe an argument not to attack this token to force him to, I don't know what I'm talking about. But he has meta, and so that's going to be game. All right, on to game 3. There's that magical merchant finding its way into the hand. Obviously, Pot of Greed, great way to start. Decide to set the merchant, the dust, the heavy. It's basically set everything, right? Like maybe there's an argument to, I don't know. I'm not going to try to overthink this. I'm not going to overanalyze things that I wouldn't be thinking about in game anyway. Yeah, like you could solemn it, but if he has heavy, I'm just dead, and I don't want to lose off of that risk. So I'm willing to, kind of even it up in cards, and then let's just play it out from there. Let's use the Dust Tornado on the end phase there. Like this heavy is more of like a wait till the end of the game when I'm trying to go for, a big push, use it there. So there are, Chaos Turbo players. I don't know if Gangster Bro necessarily does it, but I know there are people that will bring in Dust Shoot, against Warrior for some reason in games 2 and 3. So I definitely don't want to flip this yet and play into it. So I decided to go ahead and use Exiled first. Yeah. Exiled pop, hit the Sengen. That kind of sucks, but it happens. Can't get tilted. Then I go ahead and go Merchant, grab Nobleman. So he knows I have it, but whatever. Thing is though, now I play into, see, I should set this because now I'm playing into, the Dust Shoot anyway. But, spoiler alert, he doesn't have it. I don't think he would have decided it anyway. So yeah, now it kind of puts me in an awkward spot because I really don't have an out to this Zombie. I mean, I guess I do. I have Tribe, I have Solemn, I have Snatch, but none of those really feel amazing. I don't think there's any use in Solemning this. That doesn't really make a ton of sense, I don't think. And then he has Thunder Dragon. So Chaos is live. I see another Solemn, which is pretty good. I think because I have both Solemns now, I think it kind of gives me the green light to just say, all right, I'm just going to get aggressive and start going after it. I ditched the Sasuke because definitely want to hold knock in case he sets something back. Basically, I'm knowing the most common out. We got rid of one of these, so I'm not worried about another Zambira yet. I mean, he definitely could have one. Tsukiyomi could be weird. Breaker could be weird. And of course, the Chaos Monster is really what I'm saving these Solemns for. But it depends on what he does with it. If he, well, I guess I would need to Solemn the summon anyway. So I don't know. I have Snatch too for a Chaos Mon. So I don't know. This is a weird spot to be in for sure. And now I have to decide whether to Solemn this Breaker. So I think I ultimately decide to Solemn it, knowing that he probably has a Chaos Monster that he might, summon here, and then I'll need to Solemn it. Which I guess I wouldn't need to Solemn it because I have Snatch. I keep forgetting that. So I don't know. No, this isn't the highest level analysis here, but you get what you get. Then just, set the Faith after attacking. I don't know why I set this now, because he knows what it is. If he's tracking my cards, he knows what this is. And then like I lose potential discard off of tribe. But what am I like discarding off of tribe to kill anyway? Like if he goes chaos, I'm going to snatch it. So I'm not sure. He goes Tsukiyomi. Let this go through. Because I'm about to go pretty big. That is a big indicator right there to me that, you know, I might be in a better position than I think I am. That he has to discard this Thunder Dragon at the end phase. Because part of me thinks if he were to have a Chaos Monster, he would have already tried to, you know, get over the tribe with it, get that quick, easy plus. So I'm not sure. I think that I am definitely paranoid about his hand, but that should have been an indicator to me that his hand is probably a little weak. I don't know. So go ahead and use the Pot of Greed. Basically, I'm trying to decide what to set here. I know I'm going to summon this and attack. I just got to start getting after it, especially if his hand seems a little weak. So I'm just trying to decide whether I should set the call or the zing. I end up setting the zing. And I don't attack. Why don't I attack? I don't attack because I'm setting the zing. And my idea is that this is probably a battle trap. I just have that read. And so hopefully him seeing I have all this stuff set, maybe he set something back. I guess I just ruined it. But yeah, it is a battle trap. And so I'm hoping maybe I can lock him off with the zing to guarantee this Kaiko attack goes through. And at least now I don't have to worry about, you know, the Kaiku, you know, getting chaosed over. But he does have the Tsukiyomi still. And I should know that. I don't remember if I know that. But see, I don't know. I think I should have attacked. I think that would have made a lot more sense, especially knowing that he has the Tsukiyomi. Or was I planning on solemning it? Because do I even use solemn here? I don't remember. So I end up letting it go through. Okay. I don't know. This is interesting. And then I let the attack go through. Okay. So then I decide to go ahead and zing, and it works out. So I get some really nice value off the zing. This was, I don't know if this is correct. I think I played this a little weird, but I don't hate, you know, this move either. I still have the solemn around for anything that could potentially kill me. And I decided to go ahead and just go breaker, snatch, and just get, you know, super aggressive. Just try to run him down. And then the Chaos Monster, I have the knock for anything he sets, and I have the solemn for any Chaos Mon, is my thinking. And I main phase 2 hit a ring, which that'd have been crazy. Well, I guess it was locked down with zing anyway, but if the zing didn't resolve. He goes Tsukiyomi. I can't risk solemning this if he has a Chaos Monster behind, so I'll just let this go through. He sets another one. And then, what's the move here? It takes me a second, but I pretty quickly realize I have game pretty much with the ring. I don't think he's playing Book of Moon. So go ahead and attack. Then main phase 2, use Heavy Storm to clear everything. And then, you know, set the ring, set the call, and then just ring the tribe in the draw phase, which is going to do it. So we can see his hand. I'm fairly certain I watched this replay back from his perspective. Game 3, he just drew like all monsters. And I was playing around a lot of stuff that he didn't have. I think if he had a Chaos Monster, like look at this, he's 22 cards left in deck and hasn't seen a Chaos Monster yet. So very lucky that I was able to, you know, have that going my way. Yeah, that was a big thing because I think if he had a Chaos Monster earlier, that game could have easily gone his way. So, you know, big shout out to Gangster Bro, amazing duelist, good person. So great duel, dude. So yeah, that pretty much does it. I'm just really, really excited to be playing at Worlds. And, you know, I feel like I've been a pretty good streak recently. And so I'm really, you know, I'm not just content with getting invited to Worlds. You know, this is the next stepping stone. And so I want to hopefully have a good tournament, perform well at Worlds. If I go like 0-2, scrub out, I'm not going to talk about it, but I might make a video after Worlds talking about the tournament and, you know, how everything goes. Hopefully, yesterday I took the most ridiculous profile picture for Worlds, so it's absolutely hilarious. So look for that. And I think that's all I've got. I really just want to say thank you to all the people that, you know, were cheering me on, rooting for me, and that, gave me a congratulations after, lucking my way into an invite. It genuinely means a lot. And I'm just so thankful for this community and all the people, all the volunteers that, help run this thing, and just all the friends that I've met along the way. It's amazing. I'm so excited for Worlds, and best of luck to everybody competing. And yeah, we'll see you all next weekend. Bye.